And we're back. We're back. And I have ultra low latency selected. It was selected by default. So if you guys join in here, hopefully we won't have latency as a problem. Especially if you guys get in there in the Clubhouse chat over on Discord. So I finally finished tracking the acoustic guitar. I will almost certainly end up retracking it towards the end of the project. Brian, if you're watching, I'm aware that if you've never done this multi-tracking thing before, this might seem a bit stilted at first, if that's the right word. I'm not sure. It doesn't have the same vibe. It doesn't have as natural a vibe or energy as if you're playing and singing at the same time on one track, of course. Or playing and singing at the same time onto two tracks, with separate microphones if you have a proper studio setup with the ability to track two parts at the same time, which I don't. Anyway, point being, it's kind of like a lot of other things, you got to get the ball rolling, and then it builds momentum, it gains momentum, and then things start to coalesce, to cohere, and bind together. It just kind of happens. What's the word? Holistically. It's like everything affects everything else. It's all a balance that you don't strike it at any one particular time. It just develops, hopefully. And this is how many, many, many of the great recordings that we all enjoy were made. Maybe just starting with a demo on a 4-track in someone's bedroom back in the old days, or someone's garage before it got into the hands of the A&R people, and the rest is history. But at some point it goes into a big studio, and so this is not a big studio. I don't have all the bells and whistles, and that's okay. That's not the kind of sound that I'm going for. I'm making homebrew here, Another kind of analogy is it's kind of like what I'm doing right now is I'm starting a campfire in a damp forest. That's another way I kind of look at it. Just gotta, I'm just trying to, I've got some moss and some wood shavings, and I've got my steel flint, I'm just trying to strike sparks onto the kindling and get it smoldering, get a little heat going. Look for those first few, flames to start flickering up. And then, every time you lay down a part, it's like, put some twigs on there. Get it crackling a little bit, And then just one thing at a time. And hopefully by the end we got a roaring bonfire. Yeah, with men around it, tending it and feeding it, and perhaps dancing a jig. Okay, so preamble aside, now I have an idea to at least make a stab at a bass part. A word about, well, you're not really into this multi-tracking thing yet, so I won't go down that line. Okay, so maybe just a few words about if you decide to, let's say you start by you decide to experiment with tracking your guitar and your vocal separately. I'll just show you a couple things that I've done here, and I may be getting ahead of you a little bit, but not too much. This is just stuff to be aware of that can help you to achieve an optimal sound, as you see fit, of course, But so I'm going to start real quick. Say a word about the stereo field. Okay. Audio space, Of course, the first thing you think about is left and right, panning left and right. Of course, that's part of it, but it really is kind of a 360 degree kind of spherical kind of thing. There's also up and down, and there's also depth in there, kind of three-dimensional. And but the first thing we're going to kind of think about is left and right, and specifically width. So let's start by talking about width, width. Width. When you start multi-tracking and having two or more parts, some people like to do a lot of panning, and back in the day when, in the mid-late 60s, when stereo started becoming a real thing, some of those bands went to extremes, with panning, such that there are some old recordings from that period that I can't properly enjoy with a pair of headphones because I'm partially deaf in my left ear. I'm hearing impaired in my left ear, considerably hearing impaired in my left ear, such that in a recording from that period, if the producer, the band, whatever, if they decided to just like say pan the entire drum kit over to the left ear, which I think the Beatles did, for example, on some recordings. They just put Ringo all the way over there in the left. I can't properly enjoy the song with a pair of headphones. And it's for that reason and just other aesthetic sensibilities I have that I pan very little. So over here, well, let me just switch over to console view here. And you can see I now have 4 tracks. I got the drum kit, which is just, again, it's just a glorified click track to keep time right now. And then Lean Bear is the acoustic guitar, main vocal and bridge vocal. But you see here that these pan knobs, they're all at 0% center. I haven't panned anything left or right. And I only start nudging things left and right a little bit when I've got, let's say I'm getting up on 10 or 12 tracks or more. And I'll start to do that sparingly, but only with a view towards nudging things a little bit into just a little more separation and clarity. And there's nothing scientific about it. It's all trial and error, pretty much. But essentially, I mix in mono. And, part of the reason for that is that I'm hearing impaired in my left ear. And so you could say, in a sense, I'm not qualified to be mixing things in stereo. So, there's that, as they say. But just because we don't do any panning left and right, if any at all, it's not to say that we don't have stereo width. That's very, I work with stereo width quite a bit. Phil is just chiming in here. Just need to remember to talk about you on your left side. Are you poking me, Phil? I have to talk about it a little bit just to explain why I don't pan things very much. Yeah? I'm talking to Brian in case he decides to go down this multi-tracking path at all. And I'm talking about, the stereo field, audio space. We're starting with width. And I'm going to show Brian something I did with the acoustic guitar. And I'm going to introduce Brian to the concept of mid-side processing, which I think it's good to get on that early, not to be late to that as I am. Right? So, Phil, you having a good Sunday morning there? You're welcome to hop over onto the Discord chat. See if we have any latency going on here. Go over to the Cavatorium and click into the conspiracy channel. Phil, man, yeah, I'm sure you know more about that stuff than I do. Okay, I don't have the chat visible. But since I've got Phil here, although as soon as I do this, Phil's probably going to be like, I got to go. Probably he's probably drinking coffee Not smoking a big cigar, though. You're not a cigar guy, are you, Phil? There's probably rich folks eating in a fancy dining car. They're probably drinking coffee and smoking big cigars. Okay. Bill, ever the modest, self deprecating soul that he is, I think you understand mid side processing better than you let on. Anyway, that's what I'm talking about here. What is mid side processing? Well, um, even a mono signal you can think of in terms of having two basic parts, the middle and the sides, which you think of the sides as kind of like one component of mid side. And there are many tools that you can get, mid side processing tools that will help you to work with it. But the first thing you need to know is that there's a mid component. That's kind of like, think of that as the middle of your head. Okay. And then it's called the mid image. And the side image is audio information signal that exists more to the left and right. That's out here. And we want to make sure that certain things don't happen in the relationship between the two. The first thing to understand about that is that, there's with frequency spectrum and, bass to mids to trebles and especially down in the bass frequencies, we don't want a lot of bass frequencies in the side image of our audio signal. We want the bass frequencies pretty much focused in the mid image. So when we got too much bass going on in the sides, I like to say sides. This is left and right. That can cause, I'm not going to go into details, but it can cause problems, especially when you play back your mix, through speakers in different rooms, different situations. It can cause phasing issues, among other things, and it can just make your mix sound muddy. So getting bass frequencies out of the sides, that gives you a lot more clarity and tightness and punch even. So let me just kind of show you what I'm talking about. I'm just going to hurl you into the pool here. Okay. We're kind of wading in, but I'm pushing you through the shallow end here. So here is, this is my acoustic guitar channel. Okay. And here's my butter, salt, and pepper plugin that I use that I'm going to try to see if I can, I still have the installer for this, but I doubt you'll be able to get it for free the way I did, but we might be able to get something. If we can't get you this, we'll get you something else that it's like, it's not an absolute necessity to have this, but it's nice. It's kind of a compressor EQ plugin that does some nice things. We're not going to talk about that right now, though. We're going to talk about this, which, yes, I ended up downloading the new Tone Boosters Legacy Pack, where I now have the nag screen. I got to click demo mode. This is a compressor a Tone Boosters compressor. And Brian, we got to get you the Tone Boosters Legacy Pack. This is a regular old, general purpose, all-purpose compressor. And I just want you to hear, some of the differences in presets here. Okay, Phil, if you say so, man. I hope you get something out of this. I'm still learning myself, as you know. But just check out some of the. I'm just gonna solo the. We're not gonna solo it. I'm just gonna play it in the mix. Nah, I'll solo it first. So, I'll solo these two. There we go. So first, I'll start by turning it off. Off. Now you might say, well, it's louder. Yeah, I mean, it is a little bit, but it's more than just louder. There's more going on. I have this in a preset called Parallel. Don't worry about what that is yet. But I'm just going to go through some of these presets and you can hear the differences. Here's Gentle. It doesn't have as much energy. The parallel setting might be too energetic, It's a little bit, here's intermediate. That's a good balance right there. Actually, I'm liking that better right now. Here's aggressive. And that's too aggressive. Here's parallel again. There's something called upward. Okay, Phil. Birthday pool party. Woohoo! Have fun, Phil. I'll try not to make it too long, okay? All right. There's upward. Here's something called transparent. Now you can hear that these are quite different, There's one for vocal, one for bass. And of course, these are all tweakable. These are just presets. But I like to start with presets before I start tweaking. Right now, I'm kind of liking intermediate. It's bringing out the... right now, it's bringing out my picking dynamics, my strumming pattern, with the accents on the E, B, and G strings. It's not stabbing my ears, the way the other settings were. It's smooth. It's just kind of sitting politely there. It's steady. It's steady. Remember we talked about like my compressor pedal on my pedal board, right? So there's a bit more sustain, more of an even signal, stable, even, a little bit more sustain. There's a chiminess about it that a compressor can bring. A compressor is like, I don't consider it an effect. Some people call it an effect. But if you call it an effect, it's like one of the most versatile effects out there that we have available to us. It can do incredible things. It can also do really awful things. It's like... So I'm going to go with that setting for right now. You know how anything can be a weapon, right? A pencil can be a tool of learning and scholarship. And, where would we be without pencils? Or you could use it to, gouge someone's eye out. So that's kind of what a compressor is like. So that's what that's doing. And now, here I have this thing called Voxengo Stereo Touch. And listen to what this is doing. Listen to what this is doing. So I'm going to start with it off, and then I'm going to turn it on. Here we go. Actually, I'm going to turn this one off too. Okay. So these two are off, and I'm going to turn this one, Stereo Touch, on. Now, even though you see a left and right, uh, what are these called? Waves. This is a mono signal. Left and right are identical. Okay. It's just that, I could set it to record a straight, just like one waveform. But I don't bother because it's like 6 of one and a half dozen of the other. If left and right are identical to each other, it's the same thing. It's a mono signal. But listen to what happens when I turn on this Stereo Touch. Now, remember what I said about mid and side. Right now, this is very much in the mid. And I'm going to give you a visual reference to this here in a minute. Now, here I'm going to turn it on. You ready? I trust you're wearing headphones. You might. That's quite striking, isn't it? Off again. On. Now this is still a mono signal. It's just that this the Stereo Touch tool, is using it's using things like modulation and delay. Very, very small delay times, like just a few milliseconds. And it's using a little bit of pitch modulation, I believe, to create the illusion of stereo width. It's more than just an illusion, actually. It is an illusion, but at the same time, it's not. It is actually making it wider. That part is not an illusion, but it almost sounds like it was tracked in a real room with like a pair of microphones, one on the left and one on the right. That part is the illusion. It wasn't tracked that way. Still a mono track, but it has stereo width. So I use I've got quite a few of these tools in my toolkit, and this is one of my favorites. You can download it for free. I don't pay for any of my tools. And some of them I get, they're sort of free for a limited time kind of thing. But most of them you can also get for free as well. So here's this. Now I'm going to go into my visual reference. And here I've got another tool from the same maker, Voxengo. And this one is called Span. And what this does is it gives a visual representation of what's going on with the now this tool is in the master bus. So this is giving a visual representation of the cumulative signal, the mix. And from sub bass down at 20 hertz all the way up to 20,000 hertz, which is higher than you and I can hear. Well, I should speak for myself, but most adults can't hear up to 20,000 anymore. So I have this set to give us a visual representation of what's going on in the mid image and the side image simultaneously. And so, yeah, I forget which is the x-axis and which is the y-axis. X is vertical. So x-axis, vertical axis would be amplitude, how loud it is. And the y-axis, the horizontal axis, would be frequency. Okay. So let me just hit play. And I'm going to start with stereo touch off. And I'm going to just briefly explain what we see here. So the darker green is the mid image, and the lighter green down here is the side image. So lighter green is both left and right. And now I'm going to turn on stereo touch and watch what happens. You see how the mids jumped up? The lighter green jumped up in amplitude and volume. Now, look over here. Right over here. You see little glimpses of kind of like a salmon pink color. That is where the side image is, for brief instance, it's louder than the mid image. We don't want this. We don't want that. Certainly not for any sustained period of time. Okay? And you can see down here there's something called a correlation meter that's bouncing way too much. And I especially don't want it going over here to the left. But don't, we'll get to that later. Watch what happens when I turn this one on right here. This last one here. And I'll tell you what it is. And you can hear the difference too, right? But you see how down here I've got the light green under control down here. And it sounds clearer and cleaner, more distinct. I'll turn it off again. Right? On. Okay, so what's going on here? Well, let's just keep this down to like basic takeaways, basic concepts. You can see that my purpose was to get the side image down in the bass frequencies. I want to keep those bass frequencies down in the side image, which I did. Okay. And you heard the difference, right? So how did I do that? I used mid-side EQ, and here's what that looks like. This is in the free EQ that you can get, and it's called the Ozone 11 equalizer. And I've got this set where so once again, the same thing. We've got frequency on the horizontal, amplitude on the vertical, and here's my mid EQ curve, and here's my side EQ curve. Okay, now, sub-bass frequencies, let's say everything below 80 hertz. We want, as much as possible, we want to scoop the low bass out of everything except for bass and kick drum. That's the rule of thumb. Bass, kick drum, and maybe some like synthesizer parts. For guitars, and now I do have a kick drum going here, but this mid-side EQ is not in the master bus. This is only on the guitar. This is only on the acoustic guitar. So what I'm doing here is in the mid image, I am scooping out, I'm basically attenuating those those low bass frequencies, taking them out as much as possible. And I've got it rolled off on above 10K basically as well. You'll learn more about EQing as you go along. That's there's some, let's not say science, but there is some technical aspect of it, but it's also quite an art, and it's always to taste, So there's my mid EQ. Here's my side EQ, and as you can see, I've got it rolled off. There's a more drastic roll off here in the bass frequencies. I'm rolling it off starting at 500 hertz down to about 180 right here. Okay. And a more gentle roll off in the trebles, high trebles. Okay. And so if I start playing it, you can see in this plugin, these are the frequencies over here that are getting rolled off. That's the side image. There's the mid image. So actually with this mid image, I'm not rolling off much, am I? I can play with that, listen to the difference, and I can see it reflected on the span meter right there, right? And so I can watch it, I can listen. You can hear a little boxiness, a little boominess there in the guitar. Now, if I wasn't adding other parts, like a bass part and, other guitar parts and everything, I might just leave that fullness there. But this acoustic guitar part, I don't really want that. I want the chiminess. I want more of the mid-range, the low mid-range. I don't want a whole lot of bass presence there from that guitar. So right now, this is sounding better to my ear to roll off a little bit more of that bass, even in the mid-channel, mid-image. So that's where I'm going to leave that. So now let's
Ain't my drinking no more.
Here's with the
Now I'm not one for cliches, but here's one you can take to the bank.
let's talk about the vocal track a little bit.
First, the man takes the drink, then he's taken by the very drink he drank.
To me, that's sounding like a pretty good balance.
And for all the
I'm peaking around minus 3.8 in the master channel, and that's fine.
You can stammer and
Okay, well, it's
shut your purr.
now it's minus 2.3, but again, that's the peak.
Pause to reflect the poor bastard as only himself to thank. His drinking ain't his drinking no
Anyway, this is really well behaved down here. This is what I want, okay?
His drinking
And pretty much all the way across.
ain't his drinking no more.
The sides lower than the mids, but especially down in the bass frequencies. Okay, so don't let this, this might seem like a bit much all at once, but don't be intimidated by it. I think you could hear with your ears what it's doing, right? So it's good when you can hear the difference, when you can hear what it's doing, and just so get some of the basic ideas here. And if you decide to go this route with your recordings, you know, I can help you with the particulars. Just getting the hang of it, okay? And I can help you get the tools installed and proper loaded in the proper places and all that. So that's enough of that for now. This one also has different presets, you know, that all sound different. I like, well, might as well just right now just go through some of the presets in this stereo widener, so you can hear. I chose this one, surround delay. Here's guitar space. Which may be better, actually. Let me hear it with the vocal.
I've been drinking so long, I can't hardly think.
There's guitar space again.
Of anything to do but just take another drink. And I'm feeling just a little afraid.
Let's look at the span meter
As
again.
the ghosts of decisions I've made, they all want me to join their parade. Down to the bone dry bottom,
You know,
of the sink.
I'm glad I did this because even though the other setting, the surround setting, is kind of more exciting sounding in a way, I do have to think about that I'm about to add other instruments. And so it's a little bit more side focused on this preset, but I think it's better for the mix, better for the arrangement and the mix to have it a little bit more focused on this. And you could kind of see that if you know how to read the meter, you could see the difference. So I'm going to leave that there for now, but just to give you an idea that, you know, this stereo widener tool also has quite a few sounds in it, you know. And to some people don't like this aspect of mixing. I love it. I love tweaking this stuff and, you know, kind of trying to find the magic combination of tweaks, you know. And it could, you know, now it could be endless if you allow it to be. At some point, you know, you do have to reach conclusions, you know. But I love this process. I find it fascinating, and so now I'm going to go on to my vocal part here. Now I've got my main vocal part, and the bridge vocal. What I did was I right clicked and I duplicated the track, which duplicated the tools that I had loaded. You can choose it. You can choose also to duplicate whatever clips you've recorded, but instead I just duplicated the track with these two tools in it. My salt, pepper, butter tool, IDX, and now this is the old Tone Boosters Evoke. This is a vocal compressor, de-esser, gate, exciter. It's got 4 stages, and I also need to tweak this. There's also the new one that I've downloaded. might go ahead and try that, but not now. I'm gonna do one other thing here. I'm going to, a lot of times in studios, singers will do what's called doubling. They'll sing the same part two or even more times, and it's called doubling. And sometimes that's desirable, sometimes it isn't. In this case, I'd like to see what doubling sounds like, but I'm not going to go to the trouble right now of actually singing the part again and trying to match the phrasing and trying to get everything just right. Some people would say that's lazy. That's a big no-no. I don't care. There are things that can approximate doubling in a similar way that stereo tool creates a stereo effect through millisecond delays and modulation. It's a very similar kind of trick. But here's how I'm going to do it. First, I'm just going to check this real quick. I'll tell you more about how to set a vocal compressor another time.
I've been drinking so long, I can't hardly think of anything to do but just take another drink. And I'm feeling just a little afraid as the ghosts of decisions I've made, they all want me to join their parade. Down to the bone dry bottom of the sink.
Okay, that's good for now. Now, here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to add what's called the vocal strip. It's got a something vocal strip. This comes bundled with Cakewalk, but for some reason you have to unlock it. I'm not sure why that is, but first I'm going to show you what it is, and then I'm going to show you how you can go into under the hood in Cakewalk and unlock this and make it available in your toolkit. Because if you go in there in your toolkit right now and you try to find it, you won't find it. It's not there. It is there, but it's not. Hang on a second. I got an itch in my ear. Itchy ears. That means somebody's talking about me somewhere. Okay. So here's what that looks like. Insert audio effects. Cakewalk. VX64 vocal strip. That's what it looks like. And I'm going to put it first. Right there. Okay. It has 5 stages: de-esser, compressor. As a compressor expander. I don't use it. I don't like it. Sometimes I use the de-esser. If you don't know what that is, you probably know what sibilance means, right? It's S sounds and similar sounds that can be irritating, especially with sensitive condenser microphones, and So uh, it's another topic, kind of, but there are these tools called de-essers that will attenuate um, frequencies that are commonly associated with sibilance, and that varies from singer to singer. It tends to be different amongst men and women, and depends on vocal register, and it depends on a lot of things. But I know where my sibilance frequencies are, and I think that the Tone Boosters Evoke plugin handles it adequately. I'm not going to use it, the de-esser in this plug, but you can use it. It's fine. Um, the tube equalizer, sometimes I use it, but this is what I'm going to use right now: doubler, and sometimes I'll use the delay. I might use delay. Okay. These are the two that I most. These are the two stages that I most frequently use in this plugin. Okay, the VX64 vocal strip. So first, I'm going to turn on doubler, and it has two knobs: presence and stereo. And so those are the default knob settings. And let's just see what it sounds like. First, I'll start by just A-Bing it on and off. And here you have a visual representation of what it's doing to the vocal part in the stereo field. Let's see what it sounds like.
I've been drinking so long, I can't hardly think of anything to do but just take another drink.
Is that an improvement? I don't know.
And I'm feeling just a little afraid.
But you can hear the doubling effect, right? Here's what I usually do. I usually bring stereo about right there. Look at the visual representation here. About like that. And presence, I have them both like right around 12 o'clock. Something like that is what I usually hit on.
And I'm feeling just a little afraid.
Off.
As the ghosts of decisions I've made, they all want me to join their parade. Down to the bone dry bottom of the sink.
I'm kind of liking that right now. Okay.
My drinking ain't my drinking no more. My drinking.
I'm gonna bring the
ain't my drinking no more.
volume fader down a little bit. I don't like
Now
vocal.
I'm not one for cliches, but here's one you can take to the bank. First, the man takes the drink, then he's taken by the very drink he drank.
I don't like vocals to be overly loud. I want the lyrics to be clearly intelligible. I like the listener to be able to hear the words, but I don't like the vocal to be like right up in your face, where you feel like you can smell the singer's breath. I like it to sound like it's on a stage, specifically an outdoor, like amphitheater. That's the sound that I go for. A really nice hi-fi live recording on an amphitheater stage like Red Rocks in Golden, Colorado, where I went to my earliest concerts. Plus that kind of like It also is in line with my hearing impediment and my mono mixing tendencies. Okay. I kind of like that for right now. You know, I might go back and tweak it. The tube equalizer, not gonna. There's no need to do it. I kind of pretty like the way it sounds for right now. But delay, let's just play with that for a minute, and then I'll get on to this. This thing was called, tracking a MIDI bass part, so I should get onto that shortly. But you can see there's a sync switch that'll sync to the tempo, sync the delay time to the host tempo, which is 120 beats per minute. I usually do the sync, and then let's just see what we get right off the bat.
And I'm feeling just a little afraid as the ghosts of decisions
Let's start here.
I've been drinking so long.
Feedback. Feedback is how many repeats you get. Time is obviously the interval between the repeats. Level is how loud the repeats are. Okay, so once again, time is the interval between repeats. Level is the loudness of the repeats. Feedback is the number of repeats before it fades away. Okay. So I turn feedback up, turn feedback to 12 o'clock. Let's turn the level up to 12 o'clock. And I'm not going to touch time because it's supposed to be, oh, I forgot to turn it on. Okay. It's supposed to be synced to tempo, so I'm not going to touch the time knob at first. Let's just see what we get.
I've been drinking so long, I can't hardly think.
Let's solo it and see if we can hear the delay a little better.
I've been drinking so long, I can't hardly think.
And there's a little bit too much reverb. I'm going to turn the reverb send down a little bit. I had it turned up. I'm not sure why. This is just set. You remember I got a over here on this side bus. I've got my reverb, and this is sending the. This is where it sends the vocal part over to be processed by the reverb and then back again. And this just controls how much of that signal goes through the reverb. I just dialed that down a little bit. And
I've been drinking so long,
that's about good.
can't hardly think.
Think. It's about 3 repeats, and that quickly dies out. That's about what I had in mind. So I'm just going to leave it at that for now and unsolo it. And I think that's about the right amount of reverb again. So let's just go back and listen about right here where the vocal comes in. Just see how it sounds.
I've been drinking so long, I can't hardly think of anything to do but just take another drink.
Right there, you could hear, take another drink. I don't want it to be that prominent. I'm going to turn the level down. And you notice that I'm setting the EQ curve here. The EQ curve is for the repeats. I don't want those repeats to be too bright. And the trebles, I'd like them to be a little bit more muted, kind of down in the lower frequencies. So let's listen to it again.
Of anything to do but just take another drink.
Right? I'll let's listen to that again with the a different EQ curve. Let's do this. Now the repeats are going to be pronounced in the higher frequencies, okay? And the level is back up. Listen to the difference.
Of anything to do but just take another drink.
You can clearly hear those repeated, right? I don't want it to be quite that pronounced. I'm going to turn the level down just a little bit. And I'm going to kind of roll this EQ curve back here. And let's listen to it like that.
Of anything to do but just take another drink.
That's better, I think.
And I'm feeling just a little afraid as the ghosts of decisions I've made. They all want me to join their parade. Down to the bone dry bottom of the sink. Of anything to do but just take another drink. Of anything to do but just take another drink.
Okay, I'm going to leave it right there for now. It sounds pretty cool. I'm going to hit save. Now, I guess maybe I should just go back and change the title of this stream and make another stream out of doing the bass part. I think I'll do that because this is going on longer than I thought it would, of course. Okay, so now I've got the bridge vocal right here. And I like doing bridge vocals a certain way. I like it to sound distinct from the main vocal. And one way that I'll do that is by, let's say, doing a radical, somewhat radical EQ alteration. More specifically, what people would call a lo-fi sound. And I didn't even I didn't premeditate what I was going to try, but let's just say here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to take this VX vocal strip, VX64 vocal strip, and I'm going to I would like to copy it down to the bridge vocal because I want it the same. I want that in the bridge vocal as well. And I think it's, I can click it and drag it, but it's just going to move it, not copy it. I think it's either shift or control drag. Maybe control. I would try control drag. And yeah, it copied it. Okay. So now I open that in the bridge vocal. It's the same settings. Okay. Now, I'm just going to add something else to this bridge vocal. It's just going to give it a different vibe. And I'm going to go with let's see here. Tone boosters, man. Well, nah, I'm going to try this one here. This is a cassette tape simulator from a company that went out of business, and they they offered three very, very useful plugins, including a very nice reverb, very, very tricked out reverb plugin. Also happens to be really CPU intensive, so it's to be used sparingly. But this one, OCS 45 cassette simulation, it's just good for adding a different timbre, color. You'll see what I mean here in a second. It's got some presets here, and they're kind of like divided according to tape, low, medium, high. I think that's like referencing frequency band. Let me see. I'm just going to pick one kind of at random here. Medium retro sparkle. Now it's going to add like a. I told you I got tools that'll simulate a tape deck. Well, you can see it's got wobble and warble and wow and flutter and all that, right? That's going on right here. So let's hear what the bridge vocal sounds like with this preset more or less chosen at random. I'm going to start here with the conclusion of the second verse, and then it's going to go into the bridge, which I still haven't quite figured out how to sing it, but it's good enough for now.
Is drinking, ain't is drinking no more. Is drinking, ain't is drinking no more. If nothing else, recognize this as true. There but for the grace of God go you too. And below the black pox of his hypocrisy is another soul that just yearns to be. Is drinking, ain't his drinking no
Select that
more.
bridge vocal. Now I can control the volume over here. I'm going to turn it down.
If nothing else, recognize this as true. There but for the grace of God go you too. And below the black pox of his hypocrisy is another soul that just yearns to be free. I've been drinking so
Again, it's kind of a lo-fi element.
all the colors are gray.
I'd like something a little bit darker.
Is drinking, ain't his drinking no more. If nothing else, recognize this as true. There but for the grace of God go you too. And below the black pox of his hypocrisy is another soul that just yearns to be free. I've been drinking so hard. Is drinking, ain't his drinking no more.
So this this cassette plugin was really emphasizing that delay, so I had to tone it down a bit. And just I'm going to add one more thing here, just to yeah, uh, you'll see what it does here in a second. This is also in the Tone Boosters kit. It's called Easy Q. And I need to widen this so you can see where I've added it right here. It looks like this. And I'm just going to bring it down into the dark and warm quadrant.
His drinking ain't his drinking no more. If nothing else, recognize this as true. There but for the grace of God go you too, and below the black box of his hypocrisy is another soul that just yearns to be free. I've been drinking so hard, all the colors are gray.
Okay, I'm not like happy with that right now. Okay. It's going to take more tweaking, more. I only tried one preset in the cassette plugin, but you get the idea. I'm going for a kind of like a break, a sonic break from the main vocal part, something a bit different. And now, after I add more guitar parts and other parts, when the arrangement is fuller, then everything is going to sound different. And what sounds unsatisfactory now might sound good later down the line, But you get the idea. Okay, so that's enough of that for now. It's good to keep length manageable with these things. So I'm going to, I'm going to finish this stream and start another one dedicated to the bass line. So I'll just retitle this, and I'm not sure what I'm going to call it, but I hope that this helped. And Phil, you come back and watch this. I hope you get something out of this also. So that's it for this stream from lovely scenic Paju City, South Korea. Lean Bear over and out.